What if everything we think we know about ancient civilizations is just the tip of an iceberg, one hiding secrets so strange, so inexplicable, that even the brightest minds of our time can't crack them? Picture this: towering monuments built with precision that defies modern engineering, cryptic symbols etched into stone with meanings lost to the ages, entire cities abandoned without a trace. These aren't plot twists from a fantasy novel, they're real, tangible mysteries left behind by cultures that walked this earth thousands of years before us. And despite our cutting-edge technology and centuries of research, their greatest enigmas remain locked away, teasing us with questions that have no answers. Think about the last time you stood before something truly ancient, a crumbling ruin, an artifact behind glass, and felt that eerie pull of curiosity. Who made this? How and why? Now multiply that feeling by 30, because today we're diving deep into the most baffling puzzles ancient civilizations left in their wake. From the eerie Antikythera mechanism, a 2,000-year-old device dubbed the world's first computer, to the hauntingly empty streets of Cahokia, North America's lost metropolis, these aren't just historical footnotes. They're screaming gaps in our understanding of human ingenuity, moments where the past refuses to give up its secrets, and that's what makes them irresistible. This journey isn't just about marveling at the unknown. It's about stepping into the shoes of explorers, archaeologists, and codebreakers who have spent lifetimes chasing shadows. Some of these mysteries may never be solved. Others might hold clues to rewriting history itself. So whether you're a history buff hungry for the unexplained or someone who loves a good riddle, you're about to uncover 30 of the most mind-bending enigmas from the ancient world. Ready to question everything you thought you knew? Let's begin. Even after thousands of years, the Great Pyramids of Giza stand as silent, stoic guardians of one of history's greatest riddles. How did an ancient civilization without modern machinery or even the wheel construct these colossal structures with such jaw-dropping precision? Each block, some weighing as much as 80 tons, fits together so seamlessly that you couldn't slide a piece of paper between them. And here's the kicker: we still don't have a definitive answer for how they did it. Theories abound, of course. The most widely accepted explanation involves ramps, massive earthen slopes used to haul stones into place. But here's the problem: no archaeological evidence of these ramps has ever been found, not a single trace. Then there's the question of tools. Copper chisels and wooden sleds might explain some of the work, but how did they achieve cuts so precise they rival modern laser technology? Even more mind-bending is the pyramid's celestial alignment. The three main pyramids at Giza mirror the stars of Orion's belt with eerie accuracy, and the Great Pyramid itself points to true north with a margin of error so slight it would make a modern surveyor double-check their instruments. How did they calculate this without satellites or advanced mathematics? This has led some to speculate about lost knowledge, ancient blueprints, or even technologies we've yet to uncover. Could the builders have had access to methods that disappeared with their civilization? Others propose even wilder ideas, like extraterrestrial influence or forgotten energy sources. Whatever the truth, one thing's certain: the pyramids are more than just tombs. They're a testament to a sophistication we still struggle to explain. A puzzle carved in stone that refuses to give up its secrets. From the sands of Egypt to the rolling plains of England, another ancient wonder defies explanation: Stonehenge. This ring of towering stones, some weighing as much as 25 tons, has stood silent for over 4,000 years, guarding secrets that archaeologists, historians, and astronomers still wrestle with today. Why was it built? The answer isn't written in any surviving record, leaving us to piece together clues from the stones themselves. One of the most compelling theories points to the heavens. During the summer solstice, the rising sun aligns perfectly with the heel stone, casting light directly into the heart of the monument. This isn't a coincidence, it's deliberate, a sign that Stonehenge may have served as a celestial calendar. But tracking the seasons was just the beginning. Some researchers believe it functioned as a prehistoric observatory, mapping lunar eclipses and planetary movements with startling accuracy. How did a civilization without written language or advanced tools design something so precise? Then there's the mystery of the bluestone's smaller, distinctive rocks hauled all the way from the Preseli Hills in Wales, over 150 miles away. Imagine dragging these multi-ton stones across rivers, through forests, and up hills using nothing but ropes, wooden sledges, and sheer human effort. Even today, replicating this feat would be a monumental challenge. Some speculate glaciers might have carried them closer, but no evidence supports this. Others suggest the stones were chosen for their rumored healing properties, turning Stonehenge into a Neolithic hospital of sorts. But perhaps the most haunting clue lies beneath the surface. Excavations have uncovered human remains, some showing signs of injury or illness. Was this a burial ground for the elite, a place of ritual sacrifice, or a pilgrimage site for the desperate seeking cures? Every theory raises new questions. Even the layout, a series of concentric circles, pits, and avenues hints at ceremonies lost to time. The truth is, Stonehenge likely served multiple purposes across centuries, evolving as cultures changed. What's undeniable is the sophistication behind its construction. Without blueprints or metal tools, its builders aligned massive stones with celestial events, transported materials across unimaginable distances, and created a monument that still captures our imagination millennia later. It's more than a pile of rocks, it's a silent testament to a forgotten genius, waiting for us to decode its whispers. High above the barren deserts of southern Peru, the Nazca Lines stretch across the landscape like a giant sketchbook, massive, intricate designs etched into the earth so large they can only be fully appreciated from the sky. These ancient geoglyphs, some spanning over 1,000 feet, depict everything from geometric shapes to staggering depictions of animals, plants, and even human-like figures. But here's the twist. They were created over 2,000 years ago by the Nazca people, a civilization with no known means of flight. How did they craft these sprawling artworks with such precision, and more importantly, why? Theories about their purpose are as varied as the lines themselves. One prevailing idea ties them to astronomy, suggesting the Nazca used these massive etchings as a celestial calendar. Certain lines align with the sun during solstices, while others point to constellations or significant stars, but not all the glyphs fit this explanation. Some researchers argue they were part of religious rituals, possibly paths for ceremonial processions or offerings to deities, begging the question, were they meant to be walked or worshipped? Then there's the controversial extraterrestrial angle. The sheer scale and precision of the designs have fueled speculation that the Nazca might have had help, perhaps even from beings who could view their work from above. But let's be clear, there's zero archaeological evidence to support this. The real marvel lies in the ingenuity of the Nazca themselves. Using simple tools and careful planning, they removed the reddish surface pebbles to reveal lighter soil beneath, creating contrast that's lasted millennia. Some experts suggest they scaled down designs from smaller models, using ropes and stakes to map out the proportions. Yet the mystery deepens when you consider the cultural context. The Nazca lived in a region where water was scarce, and some of the glyphs align with underground aquifers. Could these lines have been part of a vast spiritual water map, guiding them to life-sustaining sources? Others point to the hummingbird, the spider, and the monkey symbols found in Nazca pottery as clues that these geoglyphs were expressions of identity or myth. One thing's certain, the Nazca lines weren't meant to be seen by human eyes at ground level. They were created for something or someone else. Whether they were messages to the gods, markers for celestial events, or something we haven't yet imagined, their true purpose remains just out of reach. And that's what makes them one of history's most tantalizing puzzles, a masterpiece painted on the earth, waiting for us to finally see the bigger picture. Deep in the lush jungles of Central America, the ruins of once great Mayan cities stand as eerie monuments to a civilization that vanished at the height of its power. This wasn't a slow fade into obscurity. It was a collapse so rapid, so complete, that by the time Spanish explorers arrived centuries later, locals spoke of the Maya as if they were ancient legends. But what could have brought down a society that mastered mathematics, built towering pyramids, and tracked the stars with uncanny precision? Theories about their downfall are as tangled as the vines swallowing their temples. One leading suspect, climate change. Tree ring data reveals brutal droughts struck the region during the 9th century, precisely when Mayan cities began emptying. Imagine crops withering, reservoirs drying up, and entire populations forced to abandon urban centers in search of water. But here's the catch. While drought might explain collapses in some regions, other Mayan strongholds had sophisticated water management systems. Why didn't they adapt? Then there's the role of warfare. Carvings on stone stelae tell stories of escalating conflicts between city-states, with kings boasting of burning rival cities and taking captives. Archaeologists have found evidence of defensive walls hastily erected around once open plazas, suggesting a society fracturing under constant threat. Yet warfare alone doesn't explain why abandoned cities weren't repopulated later, unless the very fabric of Mayan governance had unraveled. This brings us to politics. The Maya weren't a unified empire, but a network of competing kingdoms bound by shared culture. Their rulers claimed divine authority, staking their legitimacy on grand construction projects and ritual bloodletting to appease the gods. When droughts and wars undermined that authority, commoners may have simply walked away from the bargain. Recent discoveries of mass graves with signs of malnutrition hint at societal breakdown so severe that even the elite weren't spared. But here's what makes this mystery so haunting. No single explanation fits all Mayan cities. Some thrived long after others fell, suggesting the collapse wasn't one event but a cascade of failures. Perhaps it was the perfect storm, climate stress exacerbating existing tensions, tipping a fragile system past its breaking point. Or perhaps we're missing a crucial piece of the puzzle, something hidden beneath the jungle floor or encoded in those still undeciphered glyphs. The Maya didn't disappear entirely, their descendants live on, but the glittering cities, the astronomical observatories, the royal courts, those slipped into silence, leaving us to wonder how something so advanced could vanish almost overnight. Locked away in a Yale University vault lies what many call the world's most mysterious book, the Voynich Manuscript. This handwritten medieval codex, dating back to the early 15th century, is filled from cover to cover with an alien script no one has ever deciphered. Its pages bloom with bizarre illustrations, plants that don't match any known species, naked women bathing in emerald green pools, and celestial charts mapping constellations unrecognizable to modern astronomy. For over 600 years, this cryptic text has defied linguists, mathematicians, and even wartime codebreakers who once cracked Nazi ciphers. So what makes this book so stubbornly unreadable? First, the script itself is unprecedented. Unlike any known language or cipher, its elegant, looping characters follow patterns that suggest real linguistic structure. Some letters repeat like vowels, others cluster like consonants, yet none correspond to alphabets from that era. Some researchers argue it's an elaborate hoax, but that theory crumbles under scrutiny. Statistical analysis reveals the text follows Zipf's law, a linguistic principle seen in all natural languages where certain words recur predictably. A random jumble of symbols wouldn't do that. Then there's the artwork. Strange roots twist into humanoid shapes, and tubs connected by intricate plumbing hint at alchemical or medical knowledge lost to time. One section shows zodiac signs, but the surrounding diagrams depict fantastical star formations that don't align with historical records. Was this a herbalist's secret manual? A sorcerer's notebook? Even the materials deepen the riddle. Carbon dating places the vellum between 1404 and 1438, while the ink's composition matches Renaissance recipes. This wasn't forged centuries later, it's genuinely medieval. Theories about its origins range from plausible to outlandish. Some scholars propose it's an encoded herbal text by an eccentric botanist, while others believe it's a proto-language invented by a polymath like Roger Bacon. More speculative minds suggest extraterrestrial influence or a lost civilization's knowledge. The most tantalizing clue, marginal notes in medieval German and a possible link to Prague's court of Emperor Rudolf II, a ruler obsessed with the occult. But without a Rosetta Stone to cross-reference, every breakthrough hits a wall. What's certain is the manuscript's eerie duality. It feels meticulously intentional yet utterly impenetrable. Modern AI algorithms trained on hundreds of languages still can't decode it. Maybe we're missing a key metaphor, or perhaps the answer lies in blending disciplines we haven't connected yet. Until then, the Voynich Manuscript remains a silent sphinx, daring us to solve a riddle carved in ink and time. Imagine stumbling upon a corroded lump of bronze in a 2,000-year-old shipwreck, only to realize it's the most sophisticated piece of machinery the ancient world ever produced. That's exactly what happened in 1901 when sponge divers off the coast of Antikythera, Greece, pulled up fragments of what we now call the Antikythera mechanism. At first glance, it looked like little more than a rusted gear, until researchers noticed the precision-cut teeth, the intricate interlocking wheels, and inscriptions detailing celestial movements. This wasn't just a relic, it was a masterpiece of engineering, a device so advanced it wouldn't be matched for over 1,000 years. The mechanism functioned as a mechanical computer, capable of predicting solar eclipses, tracking the cycles of the Olympic Games, and modeling the irregular orbits of the moon and planets. Using a system of 37 precisely calibrated bronze gears, it could display the positions of celestial bodies with astonishing accuracy. Think of it as the ancient Greek version of an astronomical simulator, a handheld planetarium that could calculate cosmic events decades in advance. The level of miniaturization and complexity is staggering, rivaling the craftsmanship of 18th-century Swiss clockmakers. But here's what really baffles historians. Why was this technology lost for centuries? After the Antikythera mechanism, nothing remotely similar appears in the archaeological record until the medieval astronomical clocks of Europe. Some speculate that the knowledge was kept secret, passed down among a small circle of scholars in Alexandria or Rhodes, only to vanish when those centers of learning fell. Others believe similar devices were made but simply didn't survive the ravages of time. Bronze was often melted down for weapons or coins, leaving no trace. The mechanism's purpose is just as enigmatic. Was it a teaching tool for philosophers, a navigational aid for sailors, or perhaps even a status symbol for the elite? The inscriptions suggest it was used to prepare for religious festivals tied to celestial events, blending science and spirituality in a way that feels almost modern. What's undeniable is the sheer genius behind its design. The Greeks understood cycles like the Saros eclipse period and the Metonic lunar cycle well enough to encode them into metal gears, mathematics made tangible. And yet, this brilliance seems to have been a flash in the pan, a glimpse of what might have been if history had taken a different turn. The Antikythera mechanism forces us to rethink the narrative of technological progress. It's not just an artifact, it's a haunting question. How much more did the ancients know, and what other marvels have been swallowed by time? For over 2,000 years, the legend of Atlantis has captivated dreamers, scholars, and explorers alike. A glittering island empire advanced beyond its time, swallowed by the sea in a single cataclysmic night. Plato first described it around 360 BC in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, painting a picture of a circular city with concentric rings of water and land, rich in resources and ruled by wise kings. But here's where the mystery thickens. Was Atlantis a real place, a cautionary tale, or something in between? Plato insists he heard the story from his ancestor Solon, who in turn learned it from Egyptian priests. According to them, Atlantis lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the modern Strait of Gibraltar, and sank some 9,000 years before Solon's time. That would place its destruction around 9,600 BCE, a date that predates any known advanced civilization by millennia. Could this be a case of misinterpreted oral history, or did Plato invent details to suit his philosophical themes? The hunt for Atlantis has taken researchers to every corner of the globe. Some argue for the Mediterranean, pointing to the island of Santorini, where a volcanic eruption around 1600 BC obliterated the Minoan civilization. The devastation matches Plato's description of earthquakes and floods, but the timeline doesn't align. Others look to the Caribbean, where underwater formations near the Bahamas, like the Bimini Road, spark speculation of man-made structures. Yet geological studies suggest these are natural formations. Then there's the controversial theory linking Atlantis to the Richat structure in Mauritania, a striking bullseye in the Sahara Desert. Its concentric rings eerily mirror Plato's description, and evidence suggests it was once lush with water. But if Atlantis was here, how did it end up in the desert instead of the ocean? Perhaps the most compelling argument isn't about geography but purpose. Plato's Atlantis serves as a moral lesson, a powerful society corrupted by greed and ambition, punished by the gods. In this light, it might not matter whether Atlantis was real. Its true power lies in the warning it carries that even the greatest civilizations can fall. Yet the search endures, because if Atlantis was real, it would rewrite history, and if it wasn't, well, the human instinct to chase myths might be the most revealing clue of all. Tucked away in the basement of Iraq's National Museum lies an object that shouldn't exist, a small clay jar, roughly the size of a fist, dating back to the Parthian Empire around 2,000 years ago. At first glance, it looks unremarkable, the kind of artifact you might walk past without a second thought. But inside this jar is a copper cylinder, an iron rod, and traces of an acidic substance like vinegar or wine. Put these pieces together, and you've got something extraordinary: the Baghdad battery, a device that might just rewrite the history of technology. When German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig stumbled upon it in the 1930s, he was struck by its uncanny resemblance to a galvanic cell, a simple battery. To test his theory, researchers built replicas, filling the jars with grape juice or vinegar as an electrolyte. The result, a consistent electrical charge enough to produce around 1 volt of electricity. That's not enough to power a light bulb, but it could produce a tingling sensation or even electroplate objects with thin layers of metal. So why would ancient people need electricity? One tantalizing theory ties the battery to gilding. Artifacts from Mesopotamia show gold and silver plating so fine it's hard to replicate even today. Could the Parthians have used these jars to electroplate jewelry or religious idols? Another possibility involves medicine. Ancient texts describe using electric fish to numb pain, so perhaps the batteries served a similar purpose. Then there's the more speculative idea. Were they part of temple rituals, creating small shocks to all worshippers? Without written records, we're left to piece together clues from the objects themselves. Skeptics argue the jars might have held scrolls, their metal components merely decorative. But here's the catch: the acidic residue inside suggests something more intentional. And if these were batteries, why haven't we found more of them? Only about a dozen exist, all unearthed in the same region. Were they rare, experimental devices, or is most of the evidence still buried? What makes the Baghdad battery so fascinating isn't just the question of whether it worked. It's the implication that ancient people might have toyed with concepts we assume were discovered far later. Imagine the ripple effects if this technology had been pursued. Would we have had electric lights in Roman times, steam engines powered by batteries? The truth is, we'll likely never know. but this humble clay jar forces us to reconsider the boundaries of ancient innovation, a quiet reminder that history's most revolutionary ideas might have been lost to time. Stretching across the windswept coast of Brittany in northwestern France, the Karnak stones form one of the most perplexing prehistoric landscapes on Earth. Over 3,000 megaliths stand in eerie, precise rows, some towering over 13 feet tall, stretching for miles like a petrified army frozen in time. Their arrangement is no accident. The stones follow strict alignments, with certain rows pointing directly toward the rising sun during solstices. But who built them, and more importantly, why dedicate such monumental effort to arranging these massive rocks with celestial precision? One leading theory ties the stones to ancient astronomy. Just like Stonehenge, the Karnak alignments may have served as a colossal calendar, marking the changing seasons to guide agricultural cycles or religious ceremonies. Some researchers have noticed intricate geometric patterns in the layouts, suggesting the builders possessed advanced knowledge of mathematics. The Grand Menhir Brisset, a fallen giant that once stood over 60 feet tall, would have cast shadows aligning with other stones during key solar events. Were these markers for rituals or perhaps even pilgrimage routes for Neolithic worshippers tracking the heavens? But not all explanations point skyward. Excavations around the site have uncovered burial mounds and stone chambers, hinting at a funerary purpose. Could these rows have served as sacred pathways for the dead, guiding spirits toward some prehistoric afterlife? The sheer scale of labor involved quarrying, transporting, and erecting stones weighing up to 300 tons suggests this was more than casual grave marking. The effort implies deep spiritual significance, a communal project spanning generations. Then there's the seismic theory. Brittany sits atop fault lines, and some geologists propose the stones might have been placed as earthquake detectors. The granite blocks resonate at specific frequencies when the ground vibrates, potentially acting as an early warning system. It's a stretch, but not impossible after all. Ancient cultures often interpreted natural phenomena through the lens of spirituality. Could the Karnak stones be a blend of practical science and sacred symbolism? Local folklore adds another layer of intrigue. Legends speak of a Roman legion turned to stone by the wizard Merlin, or of pagan soldiers petrified for defying Christian saints. These tales, while fantastical, reveal how the stones have mystified people for centuries. Even today, their true purpose lingers just beyond our grasp, a silent testament to a people who left no written records, only these enduring granite sentinels. Walking among them, you can't help but feel the weight of their mystery, each stone a question carved in rock, waiting for an answer we may never find. Buried beneath the scorching sands of China's Taklamakan Desert lies a mystery that upends everything we thought we knew about ancient migration. The Tarim mummies, discovered in the early 20th century, are unlike any other remains found in East Asia, tall, with striking European features, dressed in vividly colored woolens and felted fabrics that seem plucked from the Bronze Age steppes. These aren't just well-preserved bodies, they're time capsules from a lost world, whispering secrets that defy conventional history. Dating back as far as 4,000 years, the mummies sported high noses, deep-set eyes, and light hair. Some even had blonde or red locks still intact. Their clothing is a marvel in itself. Intricately woven plaids reminiscent of Celtic designs, felted hats with dramatic brims, and leather boots lined with fur for the harsh desert winters. One of the most famous, the Churchen Man, towers at 6 feet 6 inches, wrapped in a crimson tunic and buried with 10 hats, as if fashion itself was a sacred ritual. But how did people with such distinctly Western traits end up in what is now Western China, thousands of years before the Silk Road? The prevailing theory suggests they were descendants of the Afanasevo culture, nomadic herders from Siberia who migrated south. Yet their DNA tells a more tangled story. Genetic studies reveal connections not just to steppe populations, but also to ancient groups from the Caucasus and even Mesopotamia. This wasn't a single wave of migration, but a web of crossings, trade, and cultural exchange we're only beginning to map. What's most baffling is their isolation. Despite their European roots, the Tarim people show no evidence of intermingling with neighboring East Asian populations for centuries. They maintained their distinct identity, crafting textiles with dyes like madder and indigo, materials found thousands of miles away, suggesting trade networks far more extensive than historians imagined. Their burial practices add another layer of intrigue. Boat-shaped coffins nestled in the desert, a practice seen in Scandinavia but utterly alien to China. These mummies force us to rewrite the narrative of early Eurasia. They're proof that the ancient world was far more interconnected and far more mysterious than we ever assumed. Were they explorers, traders, or refugees from some forgotten conflict? Every thread of their story unravels another assumption, leaving us with a haunting question. How many other lost cultures lie buried beneath the sands, waiting to challenge the stories we tell ourselves about the past? High in the Andes Mountains, the walls of Sacsayhuaman stand as one of the most baffling architectural feats of the ancient world. These massive stone structures, part of an Inca fortress near Cusco, Peru, are crafted from giant limestone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, yet fitted together so precisely that not even a razor blade can slide between them. What's truly mind-bending, the Inca built these walls without mortar, without the wheel, and without any known system of writing or measurement. So how did they achieve such impossible precision? One theory points to their mastery of stonework. The Inca were known for their ashlar technique, where stones were painstakingly shaped to interlock like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. Workers likely used harder stones to grind and polish each block, fitting them repeatedly until the seams vanished. But here's the catch: some stones have as many as 12 angles, with edges that curve and bend to match their neighbors perfectly. This level of craftsmanship would challenge modern stonemasons with laser-guided tools, let alone artisans working with bronze chisels and abrasives. Then there's the wilder idea of sonic levitation. Indigenous legends speak of priests or shamans using sound frequencies to soften stone, making it malleable like clay. While it sounds like science fiction, experiments have shown that certain resonant frequencies can cause vibrations capable of reducing friction, potentially allowing massive stones to float into place. Could the Inca have harnessed this knowledge without written records? It's impossible to confirm, but the idea lingers like an echo in the high-altitude silence. Another clue lies in the stone's irregular shapes. Unlike the uniform blocks of Egyptian pyramids, Sacsayhuaman's walls use a deliberate chaos. This wasn't just artistic flair, it was earthquake-proof engineering. The interlocking design disperses seismic energy, allowing the walls to shift slightly during tremors without collapsing. Even today, after centuries of quakes, the stones stand unwavering. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't how they built it, but why. Some scholars argue Sacsayhuaman was a military stronghold, its zigzagging walls mimicking the teeth of a puma, a sacred animal. Others believe it was a ceremonial site where the precision of the masonry symbolized humanity's harmony with nature. Whatever its purpose, the walls are a silent testament to a people who turned stone into something fluid, defying time and logic alike. Standing before them, you can't help but wonder, did they leave these seams so perfect as a challenge to future generations, daring us to unravel their secrets? In 1513, Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis created a map so shockingly accurate, it defies the limits of known exploration in his era. His work, now called the Piri Reis map, depicts coastlines with uncanny precision, including one detail that shouldn't have been possible. There, at the southern edge of the world, lies what appears to be Antarctica over 300 years before its official discovery. The continent wasn't spotted by European explorers until 1820, and its coastline remained hidden under miles of ice until modern sonar mapping. So how did a 16th century navigator chart a landmass no one had seen, or was even supposed to know existed? The map's own annotations offer a tantalizing clue. Piri Reis wrote that he compiled his work using older source maps, some dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. Among them, he referenced charts drawn by the infidels of China and the West, lost documents that may have preserved ancient seafaring knowledge. This raises a spine-tingling possibility. Could earlier civilizations, like the Phoenicians or even the Minoans, have explored Antarctica during a prehistoric warm period when its coasts were ice-free? Geological evidence suggests parts of Antarctica were last exposed around 4000 BCE, long before recorded history. If so, their knowledge might have been passed down through generations of sailors, only to resurface in Piri Reis's hands centuries later. Yet skeptics argue the map's Antarctica is simply a misidentified South America, distorted by the quirks of early cartography. True, the coastlines bear some resemblance, but here's where it gets eerie. The map shows topographic features beneath Antarctica's ice, features we didn't confirm until seismic surveys in the 1950s. The depiction of mountain ranges and river valleys aligns startlingly well with modern data, as if the cartographer had access to surveys made before the ice cap formed. Then there's the mystery of the missing distortion. Most period maps twist landmasses to fit navigational techniques or political biases, but Piri Reis's work uses an advanced projection that accurately plots latitudes. Some researchers believe he employed a forgotten mathematical technique, possibly inherited from Alexandrian scholars or even older maritime cultures. Others suggest the map's precision hints at aerial or celestial knowledge concepts far ahead of their time. What's undeniable is the map's haunting gap between what it shows and what we know of history. If Piri Reis truly tapped into ancient sources, what else did those lost charts contain? Were there other continents, other voyages now erased from memory? The map's surviving fragment is just 1/8 of the original, a teasing glimpse of a world much more explored, much more known than our textbooks dare to admit. It's not just a relic, it's a ghostly echo of a forgotten age of discovery, daring us to question how much of our past has vanished beneath the waves of time. Among the fragile 2,000-year-old Dead Sea Scrolls, one stands apart, not for its spiritual revelations, but for what it lacks a sacred text. Instead, the so-called Copper Scroll reads like a treasure hunter's fever dream. Etched onto thin sheets of metal, it lists 64 hiding places where staggering amounts of gold, silver, and precious religious objects were supposedly buried. We're talking about tons of treasure, over 4,600 talents of silver and nearly 1,300 talents of gold, alongside jars of incense and priestly vestments. If real, this hoard would dwarf the wealth of kings. But here's the catch: despite decades of searching, not a single ounce has ever been recovered. What makes this scroll so baffling is its jarring contrast to the other Dead Sea Scrolls. While those contain biblical texts and community rules, the Copper Scroll is starkly practical, a series of terse geographic clues. In the ruin that is in the Valley of Achor, dig 4 cubits, there is a chest with 80 talents of silver. Yet the descriptions are maddeningly vague. Many landmarks referenced either no longer exist or were coded names known only to a select few. Some locations seem to point to Jerusalem's Second Temple, destroyed by the Romans in 70 CE, while others lead to remote caves or valleys. Was this a genuine inventory of temple treasures hidden before the Roman siege, or something far more enigmatic? Scholars are split. One camp argues the scroll is a literal roadmap, its contents stolen or scattered during the chaos of war. After all, historical records confirm the Romans looted the temple, but never accounted for all its wealth. Could devout guardians have secreted away these relics, intending to recover them later? If so, the scroll's copper medium, unlike the perishable parchment of other scrolls, suggests the authors meant it to endure, a metal message for future finders. Then there's the symbolic interpretation. Some researchers propose the treasure never existed physically, but represented spiritual riches or even coded wisdom for an inner circle. The scroll's language shares odd parallels with later Jewish mystical texts, where gold symbolizes divine light and silver represents mercy. Could this be an allegory, a test of faith rather than a material bounty? The wild card, the scroll's peculiar Greek letters sprinkled among the Hebrew, hinting at possible outside influence or cipher techniques. Modern teams have tried everything from ground-penetrating radar to AI-assisted decryption, but the land itself guards its secrets. Political tensions and the passage of millennia have erased trails, leaving us with a metallic riddle, one that teases either unimaginable wealth or a profound philosophical joke played across centuries. Either way, the copper scroll refuses to give up its truth, standing as history's most tantalizing treasure map, if it even leads anywhere at all. Hidden beneath the quiet farmland of Zhejiang province in China lies an underground marvel that defies both reason and historical record, the Longyu Caves. Discovered by accident in 1992 when a local villager drained a small pond, these caverns reveal a labyrinth of hand-carved chambers so vast, so meticulously engineered, that their existence should have been etched into ancient text. Yet not a single scroll, no imperial record, not even a whisper of folklore mentions their creation. Who carved these sprawling subterranean halls, and why would such a monumental effort vanish from human memory? Step inside one of the 36 known caves, and the scale of the work becomes staggering. Each chamber stretches up to 100 feet tall, with ceilings, walls, and pillars carved so smoothly they appear machined. The rock surfaces bear uniform chisel marks arranged in precise parallel lines, a deliberate aesthetic choice or the signature of a lost construction technique. Even more baffling is the structural genius on display. Despite being hewn from fragile sandstone, the caves have stood for over 2,000 years without collapse, their arched ceilings distributing weight like Roman aqueducts. Yet archaeologists estimate this would have required removing nearly 1 million cubic meters of stone. That's the equivalent of carving out the Great Pyramid of Giza. Underground, the absence of tools, waste rubble, or even soot from torches deepens the riddle. Normally, a project of this magnitude would leave behind mountains of debris, but no evidence of disposal has ever been found. Where did all that rock go? Some theorize it was used to build nearby settlements, but geological surveys show no matching sandstone in local structures. Others propose the caves were dug in phases over centuries, though the uniformity of the craftsmanship suggests a single, coordinated effort. Then there's the question of purpose. The cave's layouts defy simple explanation. Some rooms feature staircases leading to dead ends, while others have pools carved into their floors at precise depths. A few walls display cryptic symbols resembling bird and horse motifs, but their meanings are lost. Were these ritual spaces for forgotten ceremonies? Secret hideouts for royalty during wartime. Ancient mining operations seem unlikely. There's no trace of valuable minerals. The most haunting theory ties them to the legendary Dongyi people, a prehistoric culture said to have worshipped underground deities. Could these caves be a sacred space meant to bridge our world and another? What chills the bones isn't just the mystery of their creation, but the silence surrounding them. Civilizations boast of their great works, yet whoever built the Longyu Caves erased themselves so completely, it's as if they never existed. Walking through these echoing halls, you're left with one unnerving thought: some secrets aren't just lost to time. They were meant to stay that way. Scattered across the rugged highlands of northern Laos, thousands of ancient stone jars lie in eerie clusters, some standing tall as a person, others toppled and cracked by centuries of monsoons. Known as the Plain of Jars, this sprawling megalithic landscape stretches over hundreds of square miles, with each vessel carved laboriously from solid rock, some weighing several tons. But who dragged these massive jars here, and what purpose did they serve in a region where written history is as sparse as the jungle is thick? The answers, much like the jars themselves, remain half buried in mystery. Archaeologists have focused on one prevailing theory. These were funeral urns. Excavations around the jars have uncovered human remains, burial goods, and fragments of bone, suggesting they played a role in death rituals. Some researchers propose the jars were used for secondary burials, where bodies were left to decompose elsewhere before bones were collected and placed inside. Others believe they might have held cremated ashes, a practice seen in other Southeast Asian cultures. But here's the twist: not all jar sites contain human remains. At some, the earth beneath reveals nothing but quiet emptiness, raising the possibility these vessels had multiple uses across generations. Then there's the pragmatic theory: storage. The jars' locations near ancient trade routes hint they could have held rainwater for traveling merchants or stored fermented rice wine, a staple in local ceremonies. Their sheer size and quantity suggest communal rather than individual use, perhaps serving as landmarks or meeting points for nomadic tribes. But if that's the case, why carve them from immovable stone instead of crafting portable containers? The effort defies practicality, hinting at a deeper cultural significance lost to time. The creators of these jars are just as elusive. Local legends speak of giants who brewed rice alcohol in them to celebrate a victorious king, while others whisper of a long-lost civilization erased by war or migration. Carbon dating places the jars between 500 BC and 500 CE, but no tools, settlements, or even pottery shards link them definitively to any known culture. The nearest parallels come from India's megalithic burial traditions, yet the Lao jar's unique design, some flared like tulips, others angular and geometric, stand apart as silent witnesses to a forgotten people's ingenuity. Perhaps the most haunting clue lies in the unexplored. Less than 10% of the jar sites have been thoroughly studied, with many areas still littered with unexploded bombs from the Vietnam War. What secrets might still be hidden beneath the red clay, waiting for the day when the land is safe enough to reveal them? Until then, the plain of jars remains a puzzle carved in stone, a testament to a people who left no written records, only these gaping vessels, their mouths open as if still trying to tell us their story. Rising from the dusty plains of southeastern Turkey, Göbekli Tepe shatters every assumption we have about human history. This sprawling complex of circular temples, carved with eerie precision over 12,000 years ago, predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years and the pyramids by 7,000. What makes it truly astonishing? The people who built it weren't settled farmers or city dwellers. They were hunter-gatherers, nomads who supposedly lacked the organization or technology for such a feat. Yet here it stands, a labyrinth of towering limestone pillars, some weighing 16 tons, arranged in rings and adorned with intricate reliefs of scorpions, lions, and vultures frozen in stone. The carvings themselves are a gallery of mysteries. Unlike later religious art, these aren't passive symbols, they're dynamic, almost aggressive. A fox bares its teeth mid-pounce, a bull charges with hooves raised, and serpents coil around the edges of pillars as if guarding hidden knowledge. The craftsmanship is so refined, so deliberate, it suggests these images weren't mere decorations but a visual language. Some researchers believe the animals represent constellations, turning the site into a celestial map. Others see them as totems of clans who gathered here for rituals, their fears and beliefs etched into the rock. But why build something so monumental when survival was a daily struggle? Conventional wisdom says agriculture came first, freeing humans from constant foraging to focus on culture and construction. Göbekli Tepe flips that script. There's no evidence of farming nearby, no grain stores, no domesticated animals. Instead, archaeologists found remnants of wild game and plants, proving the builders were still living off the land. This raises a radical possibility. What if religion, not farming, sparked civilization? The need to gather for ceremonies might have driven these nomads to settle, inventing agriculture to feed the crowds. The site's deliberate burial deepens the enigma. Around 8000 BCE, someone meticulously filled the entire complex with soil, preserving it like a time capsule. Was this an act of reverence, hiding sacred ground from changing beliefs, or a practical measure to seal away something feared? The truth might lie in the dozens of unexcavated mounds surrounding Göbekli Tepe, each potentially hiding more temples. Standing among these pillars, you're left with a humbling thought. Our ancestors were far more than primitive survivors. They were visionaries who moved mountains literally to carve their dreams into the earth. And the greatest mystery isn't how they built it, but why we've spent centuries underestimating them. Isolated in the vast Pacific Ocean, Easter Island's silent stone giants, the Moai stand as one of humanity's most haunting achievements. Carved from compressed volcanic ash between the 13th and 16th centuries, these towering figures average 13 feet tall and weigh a staggering 14 tons each, with some reaching heights of 33 feet and tipping the scales at 80 tons. But here's what defies logic. The Rapa Nui people who created them had no wheels, no metal tools, and no large animals to aid in transport. So how did they move these behemoths across miles of rugged terrain from the quarry to their coastal perches? Theories about their transportation read like an engineering puzzle. One enduring idea involves walking the statues upright, using ropes to rock them forward in a controlled shuffle. Experiments in the 21st century showed teams could move replica Moai hundreds of yards this way with coordinated pulls. But critics argue the island's uneven landscape, littered with pitfalls and steep inclines, would have made this method too risky for multi-ton monoliths. Another hypothesis suggests sledges or log rollers, except for one glaring problem. By the time the later Moai were erected, Easter Island's palm forests had been decimated, leaving no timber for such systems. This has led some researchers to propose an ingenious alternative. The statues might have been dragged on paths lined with slippery sweet potato paste, reducing friction enough to make the impossible possible. Then there's the mystery of their sudden abandonment. Hundreds of Moai were left unfinished in the Rono Raraku quarry mid-carving, as if the workers dropped their tools and walked away. What could have halted such a sacred project? For decades, the dominant narrative pointed to ecocide, the Rapa Nui's reckless deforestation triggering soil erosion, crop failures, and societal collapse. But newer evidence paints a more nuanced picture. Pollen studies reveal the island's palms were already declining before human arrival, possibly due to climate shifts. And rather than a sudden apocalypse, the Rapa Nui likely adapted, shifting to rock gardens for farming and even repurposing fallen Moai during hard times. The real tragedy may lie in what came after. European contact in the 18th century brought disease, slave raids, and cultural rupture, severing the oral traditions that could have explained the Moai's secrets. Today, the statues aren't just relics of a lost people, they're warnings about resilience and misinterpretation. Were they victims of their own hubris or survivors who thrived against odds until outsiders shattered their world? The Moai's empty eyes seem to hold the answer, but like the island's vanished forests, the truth has faded into the Pacific winds. Deep within the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, Egypt, an enigmatic relief has sparked debates that blur the line between ancient myth and cutting-edge technology. Carved into a shadowy chamber, the so-called Dendera light depicts what appears to be a giant light bulb, a glass-like tube containing a snake-like filament supported by pillars and tended by priests. To modern eyes, it's uncanny. The bulb even tapers into a socket-like base, connected by cables to what fringe theorists argue could be an ancient power source. Could this really be evidence that the Egyptians harnessed electricity thousands of years before Edison, or is there a more symbolic explanation hidden in the sands of time? The electricity theory hinges on startling parallels. The snake inside the bulb resembles a glowing filament, while the pillar-like structure mirrors an insulator. Proponents point to the Baghdad battery as potential proof of ancient electroplating techniques, suggesting the Dendera relief might document a larger, lost technology. Some even speculate about underground chambers acting as primitive power stations, citing the temple's mysterious underground tunnels and the absence of soot marks from torches in certain areas. But mainstream Egyptologists counter with a far more mystical interpretation. To experts, the light bulb is actually a symbolic representation of the sun god's journey through the underworld. The snake is the deity Ra traveling through the cosmic womb of the sky goddess Nut, depicted as the elongated bulb-like shape. The jed pillar beside it symbolizes stability, not an insulator, and the cables are likely stylized lotus stems, a common motif in Egyptian art tied to creation myths. The priests shown operating the device are instead performing rituals to ensure the sun's rebirth each dawn. Even the positioning within the temple's crypt supports this. These chambers were used for initiation rites where symbolism trumped literal depictions. Yet the mystery lingers because both explanations contain gaps. If it's purely symbolic, why does the bulb's design so precisely mirror later electrical components? And if the Egyptians truly had lighting technology, why haven't we found physical remnants beyond this single carving? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between, a convergence of spiritual metaphor and lost tech. The temple's priests were known for their advanced understanding of astronomy and chemistry. Could they have experimented with basic electrical phenomena like static from amber or early batteries and woven those discoveries into their cosmology? The Dendera relief forces us to confront how easily modern eyes can misread ancient genius. Whether it's a sacred allegory or a whisper of forgotten innovation, one thing's certain: the Egyptians encoded layers of meaning into their art that we're still unraveling. And that's the real spark, not in proving what they knew, but in admitting how much we might never understand. Off the coast of Japan's Yonaguni Island, a submerged enigma lurks beneath the waves' massive, angular terraces and stair-like formations that look eerily man-made. Discovered in 1986 by a diver exploring the crystal-clear waters, the Yonaguni Monument has sparked a firestorm of debate. Is this the work of nature's patient hand, or the drowned ruins of a civilization swallowed by the sea 12,000 years ago? The monument's most striking features read like an architect's blueprint. Towering flat plains meet at near-perfect 90-degree angles, while straight, knife-edged channels run between what appear to be stepped platforms. One section, dubbed the Turtle, resembles an altar or stage, its edges too precise to dismiss as random erosion. Nearby, what looks like a carved face stares blankly from the rock, though skeptics argue it's just pareidolia, our brains imposing patterns where none exist. The entire structure stretches over 260 feet long and 80 feet tall, dwarfing anything built by the island's known ancient cultures. Geologists lean toward natural explanations. They point to the region's frequent earthquakes, which could fracture sandstone into geometric blocks through tectonic stress. The strong underwater currents might then polish these surfaces smooth over millennia. Similar formations exist worldwide, like Northern Ireland's Giant's Causeway, where volcanic activity created hexagonal columns. Yet there's a catch: Yonaguni's steps are stacked with an almost rhythmic regularity, unlike most natural formations. Some edges even show tool marks, though these could also be scars from coral or shifting rocks. Proponents of the artificial theory raise a compelling counterpoint. The monument sits near a strait once dry during the last ice age, when sea levels were nearly 400 feet lower. Could this have been a ceremonial site for a pre-Jomon culture, later claimed by rising waters? Marine archaeologists note that nearby submerged caves contain stalactites, which only form in dry conditions, proving humans could have once walked here. Even more tantalizing are the roads and gateways. Some divers report linear features extending from the main structure like pathways to nowhere. But the most haunting question isn't just what is it? It's why can't we agree? Part of the challenge lies in the site's contradictions. While some angles appear deliberately carved, others clearly follow the rock's natural bedding planes. The lack of artifacts or pottery, typically littered around ancient ruins, weakens the human origin argument. Yet cultures like the Maya built monumental cities without leaving behind obvious tools. Could Yonaguni's creators have been just as elusive? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in the murky middle. The monument might be a natural formation later modified by humans, like Turkey's Göbekli Tepe, where builders worked with the landscape's existing contours. Or maybe our definitions are too rigid. What if ancient people saw these formations as sacred precisely because they seemed crafted by gods or giants, and enhanced them with minor alterations? Until a smoking gun emerges a carving, a tool, an unambiguous inscription, Yonaguni remains a Rorschach test in stone. Dive down there, and you'll either see the ruins of a forgotten world or a masterpiece of geological chant. Either way, it's a humbling reminder that the sea keeps its secrets well. In the remote mountains of China's Bayan region, a discovery in 1938 sent shockwaves through archaeology, or at least it should have. According to reports, a team led by archaeologist Kai Pute stumbled upon a series of caves housing strange skeletal remains, small, elongated skulls with fragile, child-sized frames. But it wasn't the bones that sparked controversy. Buried beside them were hundreds of stone discs, each roughly 12 inches in diameter, with a hole at the center and thin, spiraling grooves radiating outward. These were the Dropa stones, and their alleged inscriptions would fuel one of history's most hotly debated ancient mysteries. Initial examinations revealed something even more curious. The grooves weren't just decorative, they were tiny, hieroglyph-like characters, a script so minute that researchers claimed it could only be read under magnification. When translated, the text supposedly told an astonishing story. 12,000 years ago, a spacecraft carrying the Dropa people landed in these mountains. Stranded and unable to repair their vessel, they sought refuge in the caves, where they were eventually hunted and killed by the local Han Chinese. If true, this would rewrite human history as we know it. But here's where the plot thickens. Nearly every detail of this narrative is contested. The first red flag, the original discs vanished without a trace. No photographs, no detailed excavation records, just second-hand accounts passed through a haze of decades. The few samples studied in the 1960s by Russian researcher Dr. Tsumum Nui, whose name itself raises eyebrows, as no records of a scientist by that name exist, were said to contain high levels of cobalt and other metallic compounds, hinting at possible extraterrestrial origins. Yet these findings were never peer-reviewed, and the stones themselves were allegedly confiscated or lost. Modern searches for the caves have turned up empty, leaving skeptics to wonder if the entire story was an elaborate hoax. But what about the hieroglyphs? Independent linguists who have examined sketches of the inscriptions note striking similarities to scripts used by ancient nomadic tribes in the region. The spiral pattern, some argue, could simply be a form of early record-keeping, like a primitive accounting system or ritual calendar. Others point to the Naxi people, an ethnic group in southwestern China known for their pictographic Dongba script, as potential creators. Could the Dropa stones be a misidentified Naxi artifact, their meaning lost in translation and embellished over time? The most compelling counterargument comes from geology. The stones, if they exist at all, are likely biotite granite, a common material in the region. Their unusual metallic traces could be natural mineral deposits, and the grooves might be nothing more than erosion patterns or tool marks from ancient drilling techniques. Even the skeletal remains could belong to a known prehistoric people. their unusual proportions the result of burial practices or genetic isolation. Yet the mystery endures because of its tantalizing gaps. Why would someone fabricate such an elaborate story in the 1930s, decades before the UFO craze took hold? And if it's pure fiction, why do local Tibetan and Bai legends speak of small, yellow-skinned beings who descended from the clouds? The Dropa stones sit at the crossroads of myth and possibility, a riddle with no solution, only whispers. Whether they're proof of ancient visitors or a cautionary tale about how easily folklore can masquerade as fact, one thing's certain: they've cemented their place in the annals of the unexplained. And until someone unearths a verifiable disk, their secrets will remain as elusive as the wind howling through those high, lonely caves. Towering over other medieval manuscripts like a behemoth from the shadows, the Codex Gigas, better known as the Devil's Bible, is a book so massive, so unsettling, that legend claims it was penned in a single night with the devil's own help. Weighing in at 165 pounds and stretching nearly 3 feet tall, this 12th century tome isn't just notable for its size. Open its vellum pages and you'll find a shocking full-page illustration of Satan himself, grinning malevolently with clawed hands and a torso of eerie, scaly green. But how did such a blasphemous image end up in a sacred text, and why does its creation story defy all human limits? The most chilling detail isn't the devil's portrait, it's the eerie uniformity of the handwriting. Despite containing the entire Latin Vulgate Bible, historical chronicles, medical texts, and even exorcism rituals, the Codex shows no variation in ink, pen pressure, or script style across its 310 pages. This consistency suggests a single scribe completed the entire work, a feat that would have taken an estimated 25 to 30 years of non-stop labor under normal circumstances. That's where the legend takes hold. According to medieval lore, a disgraced monk condemned to be walled alive struck a bargain with the devil to finish the book in one night, trading his soul for salvation. The devil's portrait, then, wasn't just decoration, it was a signature. Historians propose a more earthly, yet still astonishing explanation. The monk in question may have been a penitent heretic assigned to create the Codex as an act of devotion. Some theories suggest a team of scribes mimicked one handwriting style to honor a patron saint, while others argue the work was a political tool commissioned to unify a fractured monastery. But even these rational theories can't explain the manuscript's oddities. Why include a seemingly out-of-place list of Bohemian saints alongside gruesome medical remedies? Why does the Devil's Page face a glowing depiction of the heavenly city, as if locked in eternal opposition? The Codex's turbulent history only deepens the mystery. Stolen as war booty by Swedish forces in 1648, it survived fires, plagues, and even a fall from a horse-drawn cart that reportedly caused the ground to shake. Today, the brittle pages are too fragile to fully open, leaving modern scholars to rely on digital scans to study its secrets. Infrared imaging reveals erased sketches beneath the devil's image, early drafts of the same figure, suggesting the artist agonized over its depiction. Was this fear, reverence, or something darker? Perhaps the most haunting question isn't how the Codex was made, but why its creators felt compelled to include the devil at all. In an era where such imagery risked accusations of heresy, this wasn't just defiance, it was a deliberate confrontation with the divine. Whether penned by a desperate monk or something far more sinister, the Devil's Bible remains a paradox, a sacred text that dares to give evil equal billing, its pages whispering a challenge across the centuries. What would drive a man to immortalize his tormentor so vividly? The answer, like the book itself, may be too heavy to lift. In the quiet farmlands of Elbert County, Georgia, stood a monument so enigmatic it earned the nickname America's Stonehenge. The Georgia Guidestones, a cluster of towering granite slabs erected in 1980, bore apocalyptic messages carved with chilling precision. 10 commandments for a post-apocalyptic world, etched in 8 modern languages: English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian, along with ancient scripts like Babylonian cuneiform and Classical Greek. But who commissioned this eerie time capsule, and why did its cryptic warnings spark such intense fear that someone would eventually reduce it to rubble? The stone's origins are as murky as their purpose. A man using the pseudonym R.C. Christian claimed to represent a small group of patriots who wanted to leave guidance for future civilizations. They hired a local granite company specifying exact astronomical alignments. One slab tracked the North Star, another marked the sun's solstices and equinoxes. The centerpiece, though, was the Decalogue itself. Some instructions sounded noble: maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Others felt ominously dystopian: guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. To supporters, it was a blueprint for sustainability. To conspiracy theorists, it hinted at global depopulation agendas. Then came the explosion. In the pre-dawn hours of July 6, 2022, dynamite tore through the guidestones, toppling one pillar and cracking another beyond repair. Authorities deemed it deliberate, but no group claimed responsibility. Just months later, the entire structure was demolished, as if erasing its existence. The timing fueled speculation. Had someone decided its message was too dangerous to stand? Or was this an act of defiance against the shadowy forces some believed the stones represented? Theories spiraled. Some linked R.C. Christian to Rosicrucian secret societies, citing the name's resemblance to the legendary Christian Rosencreuz. Others saw ties to early climate activism, noting the 70s era fears of overpopulation. The most extreme claimed the guidestones were a New World Order manifesto, their multilingual warnings proof of a planned global takeover. Yet for all the frenzy, the stone's true intent might have been simpler: a thought experiment. Without a living architect to explain, their meaning slips into the realm of Rorschach's test, each viewer projecting their own fears onto the granite canvas. What lingers isn't just the mystery of who built them, but why their destruction felt so urgent. In a world grappling with pandemics, climate crises, and political fractures, the guidestones struck a nerve. They forced us to ask, were these the ramblings of a fringe group, or a legitimate warning from the past to a future on the brink? Now, with the stones gone, we're left with only fragments, and the uneasy sense that someone, somewhere, believed we'd need their rules to survive. Whether that's paranoia or prophecy depends on who you ask. In the icy depths of the Baltic Sea, a sonar image captured in 2011 by Swedish treasure hunters ignited a firestorm of speculation that still burns today. Dubbed the Baltic Sea Anomaly, the eerie, 60-meter-wide structure appears like a crashed UFO, complete with what look like staircases, corridors, and even a cylindrical exhaust port. But is this a relic of extraterrestrial visitors, a forgotten Nazi experiment, or just a trick of geology playing with our imaginations? The anomaly's uncanny symmetry is what first set pulses racing. Unlike the jagged, random shapes typically found on the seafloor, this object boasts near-perfect right angles and smooth, rounded edges, features that scream artificial design. Divers who approached it reported equipment malfunctions, with cameras and satellite phones failing within 200 meters, fueling wild theories about electromagnetic interference. Some even claimed the structure rested atop a towering pillar, as if placed deliberately rather than sinking naturally. Yet skeptics counter with a far simpler explanation. This is a glacial erratic, a boulder deposited by ancient ice sheets that just happens to resemble something man-made. After all, nature can conjure surprisingly geometric formations. Think of Northern Ireland's basalt columns or Utah's sandstone arches. Then there's the wartime angle. The anomaly lies near shipping lanes heavily trafficked by Nazi forces during World War II. Could this be the remnants of a top-secret submarine base or a lost prototype, like the so-called Die Glock, the Bell, a rumored Nazi anti-gravity device? Divers have reported drag marks on the seabed, suggesting something massive was once moved or crashed into position. Critics point out that no known Nazi technology matches the anomaly's size or shape, and no archival documents hint at such a project. But in the fog of war, who's to say what might have been buried or erased? The wildest theories, of course, revolve around visitors from beyond our world. The object's saucer-like silhouette and its eerie resemblance to the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars have made it a darling of UFO enthusiasts. Some researchers propose it could be a crashed spacecraft, its metal hull oxidized into the strange, blackened crust divers described. Others speculate it might be a fragment of Atlantis, a piece of pre-flood technology frozen in the Baltic's brackish waters. Yet science offers quieter, if no less fascinating, possibilities. Geologists note the anomaly's composition. A mix of manganese and volcanic rock matches natural seabed formations in the region. The corridors could be erosion channels carved by currents, and the pillar might simply be a glacial moraine. Even the electromagnetic oddities could stem from mineral deposits interfering with equipment. The truth we may never know for sure. Expeditions to the site are costly and dangerous, and the anomaly's murky, sediment-choked environment makes detailed study nearly impossible. What's undeniable is its power to captivate. Whether it's a geological fluke, a wartime ghost, or something beyond our understanding, the Baltic Sea anomaly forces us to confront how little we truly know about the secrets lurking beneath the waves. And sometimes the most profound mysteries aren't about finding answers, they're about savoring the questions. For centuries, the Shroud of Turin has gripped the faithful and skeptics alike, a 14-foot-long linen cloth imprinted with the haunting image of a crucified man, his wounds eerily matching the biblical account of Jesus' suffering. To believers, it's the sacred burial shroud of Christ himself. To scientists, it's an enigma wrapped in centuries of controversy and cutting-edge forensic puzzles. But what makes this relic so endlessly debated isn't just its origin. It's the baffling details that defy even modern explanation. Carbon dating in 1988 seemed to deliver a verdict. Tests at 3 independent labs placed the shroud's creation between 1260 and 1390, dismissing it as a medieval forgery. But here's where the plot thickens. Further studies revealed the sample tested might have been contaminated by medieval repairs, a patch of rewoven fabric rather than the original cloth. When researchers analyzed pollen trapped in the fibers, they identified species native not just to Europe but to the Middle East, plants that would have been unknown to a medieval artist. Even more perplexing, the image itself isn't painted. There's no pigment, no brushstrokes, just a delicate discoloration of the topmost threads, as if the linen was lightly scorched by some inexplicable burst of energy. Then there's the shroud's most mind-bending feature, its hidden dimensionality. In the 1970s, scientists discovered the faint image contains encoded 3-dimensional information, a property no known painting technique of the era could achieve. When analyzed with advanced imaging software, the intensity of the discoloration correlates precisely with the cloth's distance from a hypothetical body, as if it had been draped over a real human form. This isn't a flat artwork, it's a perfect, ghostly topographical map of a man's physique. How could a medieval forger, centuries before the invention of photography, replicate something so precise? Skeptics propose theories ranging from primitive photography using a camera obscura to chemical reactions with a heated statue. Yet none fully account for the shroud's uncanny anatomical accuracy. The nail wounds in the wrists, a historically accurate crucifixion detail misunderstood until modern archaeology. The scourge marks from Roman flagrums, even the precise blood flow patterns matching a crucified position. The blood, tests confirm, is real human hemoglobin, type AB, with traces of bilirubin consistent with someone under extreme trauma. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't whether the shroud is authentic, but why science still can't definitively explain how it was made. Whether divine relic or ingenious hoax, it remains a mirror to our curiosity, a challenge that bridges faith and reason, daring us to unravel a mystery woven deep into the fibers of history. Hidden beneath the rolling hills of Visoko, Bosnia, lies a controversy that has divided archaeologists for decades, the so-called Bosnian pyramids. Proponents claim these massive, geometric landforms are actually the largest pyramids in Europe, deliberately constructed by an advanced ancient civilization. But mainstream science dismisses them as natural formations, nothing more than oddly symmetrical hills. So who's right, and why does this debate ignite such fierce passion on both sides? The story begins in 2005, when amateur archaeologist Semir Osmanagic declared that Visoko's Pjeljasevica hill was in fact a colossal man-made structure, the Pyramid of the Sun. His team pointed to the hill's striking triangular faces, each angled at precisely 45 degrees, and its uncanny alignment with the cardinal directions. Nearby, they identified additional pyramids, including the Pyramid of the Moon and the Pyramid of the Dragon, all supposedly part of a vast, interconnected complex. But it wasn't just the shapes that raised eyebrows. Excavations revealed layers of what appeared to be ancient concrete, a material not known to have been used in Europe until Roman times. Lab tests on samples showed a synthetic polymer binding agent, suggesting a sophisticated, possibly lost construction technique. Even more tantalizing were the labyrinthine tunnels snaking beneath the structures, some lined with carved megaliths and strange energy anomalies detected by instruments. Could these passages be part of a ceremonial network or even an ancient energy grid? Geologists aren't convinced. They argue the pyramids are textbook examples of Flatiron's natural, angular landforms created by tectonic uplift and erosion. The concrete, just conglomerate rock, a common sedimentary formation. As for the tunnels, they're likely medieval mines or natural karst caves, later modified by human hands. The scientific consensus is clear. There's no credible evidence of a lost pyramid-building culture in Bosnia, yet the mysteries persist. Why do thermal imaging scans show unusual heat patterns beneath the hills, as if hollow chambers lie hidden within? And how do we explain the precise mathematical ratios between the structures, mirroring those found in Egypt and Mesoamerica? Supporters of the pyramid theory argue that dismissing these anomalies outright ignores the possibility of rewriting history. The debate isn't just about rocks and tunnels, it's about how we define discovery. Are we too quick to label unconventional ideas as pseudoscience, or are we right to demand irrefutable proof? Whether natural wonders or artificial marvels, the Bosnian pyramids force us to confront the boundaries of what we think we know. And until someone unearths undeniable evidence, they'll remain one of archaeology's most polarizing enigmas. Imagine holding a delicate gold-plated artifact from ancient Mesopotamia, a pendant perhaps shimmering with a flawless, even coating of precious metal. For decades, historians assumed such objects were gilded using mercury or other primitive techniques. But what if the Baghdad battery offered a far more sophisticated method? Experimental archaeologists have put this theory to the test, revealing startling possibilities that could rewrite our understanding of ancient craftsmanship. In a series of experiments, researchers recreated the battery's design: a clay jar, iron rod, and copper cylinder filled with grape juice as an electrolyte. When connected to a small gold object submerged in a gold salt solution, the setup produced enough current to deposit a thin, uniform layer of gold onto the item within hours. The results weren't just plausible, they mirrored the microscopic consistency seen in artifacts from the Parthian era. This wasn't crude plating, it was precision work, the kind that would have required trial and error to perfect. Could ancient artisans have stumbled upon electrochemistry long before it was formally understood? Beyond adornment, the battery's potential medical applications are equally fascinating. Ancient Greek and Roman texts describe using electric fish like torpedo rays to numb pain or treat headaches. If the Baghdad battery could generate a mild current, might healers have employed it for similar therapies? Replicas wired to damp sponges produce a tingling sensation when pressed against the skin, mimicking the effects of early electrotherapy devices from the 18th century. While no direct evidence links the batteries to medical use, the parallels are tantalizing. Imagine a physician in Seleucia cautiously applying charged rods to a patient's aching joints, harnessing what they saw as divine sparks to ease suffering. Yet the most provocative question isn't whether these batteries worked, it's why their technology vanished. Unlike monumental architecture or written knowledge, practical inventions often fade without a trace if they're not continuously used or documented. The Baghdad battery might represent a fleeting spark of ingenuity, a tool whose significance was lost amid war, cultural shifts, or simply the passage of time. Or perhaps we've only found the first piece of a larger puzzle, with other devices still buried, waiting to reveal how deeply the ancient world understood forces we'd later call science. Either way, these unassuming jars challenge us to reconsider the boundaries of history's lost innovations. Among the swirling debates about the Nazca Lines, few theories ignite imaginations like the idea that these sprawling desert etchings served as runways or landing markers for extraterrestrial spacecraft. From high above, some of the geometric strips and trapezoidal shapes do bear an uncanny resemblance to modern airstrips, long, flat stretches of cleared ground that could theoretically guide something descending from the sky. Proponents of this hypothesis point to the sheer scale and precision of these formations, some stretching over a mile in length with edges so straight they rival laser-guided construction. If these weren't meant to be seen from the ground, the logic goes, maybe they were designed for visitors who viewed Earth from above. The parallels don't end there. Certain Nazca glyphs feature what look like approach lines, wide, trapezoidal zones that narrow abruptly, resembling the funnel-like paths pilots used to align with runways during descent. Even more intriguing are the clusters of circular pits found near some lines, which some liken to landing pads or energy ports. And then there's the matter of the desert's natural advantages. Its stable, windless climate and sun-baked surface would have provided an ideal landing zone, free of vegetation or erosion that might obscure the markings. Skeptics, however, counter with a glaring question. If these were alien runways, where's the evidence of propulsion marks, mechanical wear, or any residue left behind by advanced technology? The lines show no signs of heat scarring, radiation, or the kind of disturbances you'd expect from heavy spacecraft. Furthermore, the Nazca culture left behind pottery and textiles depicting everyday life, hunting, farming, rituals, but nothing resembling extraterrestrials or futuristic machinery. That hasn't stopped researchers from digging deeper. Some note that the line's mineral-rich clay emits electromagnetic anomalies, sparking theories about energy conduits or navigational beacons. Others propose the glyphs weren't runways at all, but symbolic representations of constellations, with the long lines acting as celestial maps for starfaring visitors. It's a tantalizing thought, but without physical proof, it remains firmly in the realm of speculation. What's fascinating isn't just the theory itself, but why it persists. The Nazca Lines force us to confront the limits of our understanding. When faced with something so deliberately crafted yet so inexplicable, it's human nature to reach for the extraordinary. Whether they were messages to gods, markers for rituals, or something far beyond our current grasp, these desert etchings continue to defy easy answers, inviting us to look up and wonder. For over a century, the Voynich Manuscript has defied linguists and cryptographers alike, but in recent years, artificial intelligence has thrown a new wrench into the mystery. In 2020, a team of researchers at the University of Alberta applied deep learning algorithms to the manuscript's cryptic script, searching for patterns that human eyes might have missed. The AI didn't just analyze the text, it cross-referenced its structure against hundreds of known languages, hunting for statistical similarities. What it found sent shockwaves through academic circles. The manuscript's word order and syllable patterns most closely matched a long-extinct branch of the Anatolian language family, specifically a precursor to early Armenian. This wasn't the first time technology had been deployed against the manuscript. Earlier attempts, like a 2017 study using algorithmic pattern recognition, concluded the text might be encoded Hebrew. But the AI's Anatolian hypothesis stood out because it didn't rely on simple letter substitution or known cipher techniques. Instead, it suggested the manuscript was written in a vernacular dialect, a spoken form of a language that never developed a standardized written form. If true, this would explain why the script looks so alien. It could be a phonetic representation of a tongue that disappeared before modern linguistics could document it. Even more tantalizing, the AI identified functional word classes, nouns, verbs, conjunctions following grammatical rules consistent with natural language, not gibberish or an elaborate hoax. Yet skepticism lingers. Critics point out that Anatolian languages like Luwian or Hittite were primarily written in cuneiform or hieroglyphs, leaving no known precedent for a handwritten, alphabetic script in the region. And while the AI detected structural parallels, it couldn't translate the text, only guess at its linguistic roots. Some researchers argue the manuscript's mix of botanical and astronomical illustrations better align with medieval European traditions than Anatolian culture. Could the AI have been misled by the text's unique morphology, mistaking randomness for linguistic rules? The debate took another twist in 2021 when a separate team proposed that the manuscript might be a form of proto-language, an experimental code blending elements from multiple tongues. This theory gains traction when examining the manuscript's herbal section. Plant names appear to follow a taxonomic system, with prefixes and suffixes suggesting categories like medicinal use or geographic origin. If correct, the Voynich Manuscript might not be a straightforward document but a scholarly cipher, blending natural observation with linguistic innovation. What's clear is that each technological breakthrough peels back a layer without revealing the core. Whether it's a lost Anatolian dialect, an elaborate Renaissance cipher, or something else entirely, the manuscript continues to guard its secrets with the same stubborn defiance that's taunted researchers for 600 years. And as AI grows more sophisticated, one question lingers. Will the next algorithm finally crack the code, or will the Voynich Manuscript outsmart the machines too? Just when we thought the Great Pyramid of Giza had given up all its secrets, cutting-edge technology has ripped open a whole new chapter in this ancient enigma. In 2017, a team of researchers using muon tomography, a revolutionary imaging technique that tracks cosmic ray particles passing through solid matter, detected something staggering: a massive, previously unknown void lurking above the pyramid's grand gallery. This hidden chamber, dubbed the Big Void, stretches at least 30 meters long, its purpose as mysterious as the pyramid's own construction. But here's what makes this discovery so electrifying: muons don't lie. Unlike radar or thermal scans, which can be thrown off by dense materials, these high-energy particles penetrate stone with unerring precision, revealing gaps in the pyramid's interior as clearly as an X-ray shows a broken bone. The implications are dizzying. Could this void be a sealed burial chamber for Khufu himself, untouched since antiquity? The pyramid's known rooms, the king's chamber, the queen's chamber, have never yielded a pharaoh's mummy or grave goods, leaving archaeologists to wonder if we've been looking in the wrong places all along. Or might this space hold something even more unexpected? Scrolls of lost knowledge, ritual objects, or even the fabled Hall of Records, whispered about in ancient astronaut theories. The void's alignment with the pyramid's central axis suggests deliberate design, not some accidental gap in construction. Then there's the smaller but equally puzzling cavity found near the north face, its angular shape hinting at a hidden corridor or structural feature. Some engineers propose these voids could be part of a stress relief system, cleverly designed to distribute the pyramid's immense weight away from critical chambers. But why conceal them so completely? The original builders left no diagrams, no inscriptions pointing to these spaces, just silent, empty volumes waiting 4.5 millennia to be noticed. With new scans planned using even more sensitive muon detectors, we're standing on the brink of revelations that could rewrite history. Imagine if robotic probes or micro cameras one day breach these sealed spaces, capturing images of undisturbed artifacts or inscriptions that finally decode the pyramid's true purpose. Or perhaps we'll find only dust and silence, a reminder that some secrets are meant to stay buried. Either way, the Great Pyramid isn't done surprising us. Every answer it offers seems to birth two new questions, proving that even after centuries of study, we've barely scratched the surface of its mysteries. Reconstructing the Antikythera mechanism isn't just an exercise in engineering, it's a high-stakes race against time to decode the mind of a civilization that left behind only cryptic clues. In the last 2 decades, teams of scientists and engineers armed with 3D modeling, X-ray tomography, and centuries of collective expertise have painstakingly pieced together working replicas of this ancient marvel. One of the most groundbreaking efforts came from a collaboration between University College London and the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, whose 2021 model unveiled a jaw-dropping revelation. The mechanism's front dial didn't just track the sun and moon, it accurately plotted the positions of all 5 planets known to the Greeks. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn moved across a miniature cosmos with near-perfect precision, their retrograde motions simulated through an intricate system of interlocking gears. But how did they crack a puzzle missing nearly a third of its original parts? The answer lies in the inscriptions, faint Greek letters etched onto the fragments, some no larger than a grain of rice, served as a user manual from the past. Phrases like the sphere of Kronos, Saturn, and the shining one of Aphrodite, Venus, hinted at planetary displays, while mathematical ratios scrawled in the margins matched gear ratios needed to replicate celestial cycles. Modern teams reverse-engineered these clues, discovering that the original device likely contained at least 70 gears, some with teeth so tiny they'd challenge today's CNC machines. The most startling insight, the mechanism's sophistication implies a lineage. Gearing this precise doesn't appear out of thin air, it suggests generations of trial and error, prototypes now lost to history. Scholar Michael Wright's earlier replica, built with traditional hand tools, demonstrated that even slight miscalculations in gear ratios would throw off planetary positions within months. Yet the Antikythera's creators achieved accuracy spanning decades, meaning they didn't just understand astronomy, they'd mastered the art of translating cosmic rhythms into tangible mechanics. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't how the Greeks built it, but why we've found only one. Shipwrecks from the same era often carried luxury goods, statues, jewelry, fine pottery, yet no other devices like this have surfaced. Was the mechanism a unique commission for a wealthy patron, or did its brethren vanish into the smelters of war and time? Every replication effort peels back another layer, revealing not just gears and dials, but a world view where science and myth dance together, a reminder that the past's genius might still be waiting, silent in the deep. From the celestial precision of the Antikythera mechanism to the silent, looming sentinels of Easter Island, these mysteries don't just baffle us, they force us to rewrite history. Each discovery peels back another layer of what we thought we knew, revealing civilizations with knowledge so advanced, so inexplicable, it borders on the supernatural. Consider the Great Pyramid's hidden voids detected by cosmic rays but still sealed after millennia. Or the Voynich Manuscript, its pages a linguistic labyrinth that even artificial intelligence can't crack. These aren't just puzzles, they're proof that the past was far more sophisticated than our textbooks dare to admit. Think about the implications. The Baghdad battery suggests ancient tinkering with electricity, while Sacsayhuaman's earthquake-proof masonry hints at engineering secrets we've yet to rediscover. The Nazca Lines, sprawling across deserts with otherworldly precision, challenge our assumptions about human purpose. Were they messages to the gods, celestial maps, or something even weirder? And let's not forget the Tarim mummies, their European features frozen in time, silently testifying to migrations and connections that reshape our map of the ancient world. Here's the thrilling part. We're standing on the edge of breakthroughs. New technologies, muon tomography, AI decryption, even underwater drones, are giving us tools our ancestors couldn't have dreamed of. Which mystery will fall next? Will we finally decode the Copper Scrolls treasure map, or will Göbekli Tepe reveal another buried temple that predates civilization itself? The race is on, and every answer unravels another thread in humanity's grand, tangled tapestry. So what's your take? Drop your wildest theories in the comments. Do you think the Dropa stones were alien artifacts or just an elaborate hoax? Is there a hidden chamber in the Great Pyramid waiting to rewrite history? The conversation doesn't end here. If you're hooked on these enigmas like we are, make sure to subscribe. Because history isn't just about the past, it's about the secrets still lurking in the shadows, and we're just getting started.